Good morning. This is the daily briefing. Good morning, troops. So it's European, it's Super, and it's a league. A lot of people are throwing their toys out the pram with this whole business, and I find it quite peculiar. Now, I don't say this from the position of one of the lucky boys that's in the inner sanctum that's been pull the ladder up, Jack, because Spurs are one of the dirty dozen, as a bowler have titled the clubs this morning. But it's more a question of that this was also inevitable, as I said yesterday, and I don't understand why people are taking capitalism rearing its ugly head as a shock. And this is always the way that the game was going, and it was never, ever, ever going to be anything else. So it strikes me that a lot of you, or a lot of people, have been kind of allowed themselves to be conned and hoodwinked by all this talk about grassroots football. And I went to a thing. I'll give you an example. I went to a thing at Wembley, and I've done a few things on the blog. And I joke with people that it's the most beautiful musical words that have ever been said to me. And you go in, you go up to the special, Club Wembley Lounge or whatever. And the lady says, "Oh yeah, who are you with?" Blah, blah. I said, "So the blog." And she goes, "Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Hotspur. You're on table 23 and you are guests of Budweiser." Now, I was in that place, that function suite or whatever it was, for many hours. I spoke and schmoozed to a number of marketeers, and nobody once mentioned grassroots football. And the whole thing, everybody was there because it had been a thing with Venables, and it was all about grassroots football. Nobody mentioned it. And there was nothing on the walls. Nobody spoke about it. There was a couple of compares, hosts and what have you. But the whole thing is I won't say a scam, but it's lip service. And nobody cares about little Johnny playing on the park. Nobody cares about the small clubs. And the BBC will do a thing on, like, for the FA Cup. Oh, and you join us here, and we're at, Stafford Green Rovers. And we're here with the chairman, and that's his wife, and that's their uncle, and he mows the lawn. And it's all this sort of faux chumminess and this absolute fakery that they care about the little people. And they simply do not. And I've got friends who support teams that are outside of this bubble, and we'll talk about that, like Villa, Leeds, West Brom, Birmingham, guess where I live. And they're losing their minds because they know that everything now is going to get smaller and tougher and tighter. Category A games are now going to be Category B/C games that were. The money's going to come down. The cash, the food supply, the oxygen. Football must feed us. But for those that it isn't going to feed, you will eventually starve. You will have the last grains or microbes or whatever taken away from you. There is nothing left. There is no upturn out of this. Those that haven't risen above the mob are doomed. And if I was sitting here talking to you about Colchester United, I would say, look, I take it on the chin. This is the way it's going to be. This is how they always envisaged it. And I guess what I'm repeating over and over and over and over again is I'm not surprised. And I'm struggling to understand why so many people are surprised. And in fact, I don't think they're truly shocked at all. I think there's an awful lot of going through the motions. One positive out of this is that I'm seeing a number of people I don't care for. I don't get any enjoyment from listening to or having their worldviews inflicted upon me. Gary Lineker, Gary Neville, and other people with different Christian names. I hope in this new world order you guys don't feature, because I'll be delighted not to have your voices as pundits or presenters or whatever it is you get up to. I'd be very, very, very happy never to see you again. And if as the bubble rises, this elitist, horrible, nasty, terrible, terrible thing, I hope that you're happy being left behind, because you will be revealed for what you are, which is somebody who wanted to be part of the gang. Because I don't believe you. Because if you'd wanted to do something, if you wanted to help grassroots football, if you wanted to help little Johnny in the park and all the small clubs and all the people that have been really, really, really hurt by the pandemic, then you would have done something. Or you would have done something more. You would have done something more meaningful. And I think you're really going to enjoy eating your stale bread, because that's what you're going to be. And ladies and gentlemen, now we're going over to Craven Cottage for Fulham versus Sheffield Wednesday. And that's where you're going to be, because you had the power, you had the opportunity, you had the platforms to change and to help people, but you didn't. You patronised people, and you did those soppy little broadcasts, like I said, with the BBC, the FA Cup, and you didn't do anything that was meaningful. And this is where you are now. So, back to Tottenham. We now have this for, I think, for Mr. Levy and for many other chairmen. We now have this idyll where we have this bubble, this gamified platform whereby everybody at the top of the table plays each other forever, and there's no relegation, and there's no threats, and there's no inconveniences. I mean, you've got, we're off to play Atletico Madrid at the weekend. Fantastic. Every game is a genuine glamour time. And none of the, as I say, the shenanigans, the hoodwinkery, all of the faux care and concern, the magic of the cup, all these other phrases, they're just telling it how it is, I don't wish anybody ill, with the exception of the people I referenced earlier. But this is how it was going to go, because there wasn't that sincerity there. There wasn't that authenticity in the ideas and the stuff that was being expressed by the people at the top of the tree. So there you go, full circle. The people bleating the loudest are in fact the people that created this situation. Because if the model for everybody had been legitimate and more robust, then it couldn't have been tipped over overnight, which is what's happened. Where does it leave us as far as Tottenham's concerned? Well, I've got some very good news. If you're not surviving on stale bits of bread, then it's an endless series of magnificent dishes on gold plates. And live swans leaping out of cakes, whatever your idea of fantasy is. Everything that has been niggling Daniel Levy has suddenly been negated. Is Harry Kane staying? Okay, let's look at where he might go now. Well, he might go and play for Barcelona still, or Atletico Madrid, or for Real, or for Juventus. But Tottenham can offer him everything they can. Because if they get thrown out of the Champions League, which looks increasingly likely, if they get thrown out of the Premier League, which could happen, then they will exist in this elite bubble where they are bulletproof. And everybody outside of the bubble will be looking in, begging and hoping that they get invited at some point. So if you've got a player, say Leeds United have a striker or whatever it might be, or a goalkeeper at wherever, they will be looking and saying to themselves, I no longer aspire to just getting picked up and progressing my career the next rung of the ladder. My ambition is to play for a European Super League side. And that's where everybody is going to be looking. That's the level. That is the bar. That's where people want to be. And once you're in there, I would suggest that unless you have a situation that develops over time whereby Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or whoever it might be win the damn thing every single season, which will then create, just as there is within existing current leagues, you'll have these little microclimates develop whereby there will be a top 4, a top 5, a top 6. You might get something like that, but it's highly unlikely that there's going to be that much of a gulf, because these are all golden ticket clubs now. But all of the problems, who's going to manage Tottenham, will Harry Kane stay, they've not evaporated, but they've been massively, massively negated. And it really, I can't believe that all chairmen, not just Levy, but I can't believe that all chairmen aren't. They've got to get over this process, this period, because there's going to be a lot of turbulence. There's going to be a lot of stones thrown. There'll be cracked glass in windows and all this business. But once you get through this period, this uncertainty, if they hold their nerve and go ahead with this, then there's an awful lot to be said for the security and the way that these clubs will have then insulated themselves. So I'm waiting for somebody to come at me, to show, to demonstrate, to prove, to even hint a cogent, a coherent argument against this Super League. The damage that it leaves in its wake, I'm not ignoring, but what's the fuss? Because at the moment we have the established cartel, and now we're going to have a new cartel. That's the only difference. So you can't, like I said on the thing yesterday, you can't say, start bleating about money and greed and corruption and all the other sort of weirdo Marxist loony left, I don't like it, why can't we all have a lollipop sort of nonsense that gets spewed out, when the system that we're in at the moment is just like not as good as this new crazy money orientated thing that's been proposed. So the weeping and wailing isn't over. We'll look across the day to see if there's any news on a manager. There's talk of Sarri, which I find peculiar, but that's not to say that it can't happen. Anyway, thanks again. Subscribe. I've been told to tell you that. Subscribe, like, and tell your friends and neighbours that this is amazing. Okay, good luck. Keep it Tom.